All right, then let's get started. Thank you for joining. We will continue with this session, and today we are looking at exploring blockchain in the media entertainment industry, but more specifically, deep dive into the music industry and see various applications and use cases of how we could get around it. Uh, Before I have a few participants in the waiting room, let's just get on with. All right. So a little bit about me. I come from a strategy consulting and product management background. I've spent over a decade in telecom, media entertainment industry before joining EPAM. I worked with the likes of Warner Brothers, Disney, Sony, so the big wigs, the big six of the movie worlds and the movie and the music industry worlds, if you may. I also specialize in other domains such as retail, e-commerce, FMCG, advertising, automotive, to name a few. Apart from the domain specializations, I have specific interests in AI, ML, blockchain, like we're looking at now, robotic process automation, and Mac technology stack, which is one of the key terms in the market these days. Quickly giving an overview on what we will be looking and covering today. We first take a 50,000 square feet view of what are the challenges in the media entertainment industry, like the really high level ones. Then we look at some of the key driving forces within blockchain industry technology that are pushing the envelope of how and why we should be doing using this increasingly in this domain. And we will briefly touch upon some of these use cases across the value chain in the media entertainment ecosystem, and then take a look at what kind of use cases are potential candidates for implementing blockchain in this. Over the course of the next 28, 29 minutes, I think we will kind of go into some depth, but I'm leaving a few minutes after this session for a Q&A. You can hold on to your questions. If you can hold on to your questions until then, I think that'll be great. Let's move on. So this is the media entertainment value chain can be categorized in multiple ways. For layman terms, you can very much stick to the standard jargon out in the market, which is content creation, content aggregation at the highest level, where you're looking at what kind of content can you create and how do you bring that thing together. Then you have content distribution. Now that you have all this content, how do you want to push it out for general consumption? How do you monetize it, or how do you get more eyeballs to it? And then you have this content consumption, which is basically, now that it's out there, how are you making sure that the right people are looking at it, the right content is being presented, or the right kind of actions are happening with your asset? It can be a music file, it can be a video file, anything media typically. So if you break this down into these segments, then across each, some of the high-level challenges which are more commonly known in the industry are copyright infringement, content piracy, and then a lot of intermediaries. In a few slides from now, I can give you a taster of how complex this ecosystem is in some cases. Then moving on to the distribution front, there is one of the key issues in the industry today is the lack of transparency, because a lot of work that is done by bigwigs is using different branding agencies and then consulting agencies, and this is where a lot of balls get dropped. And when it really comes down to accountability and transparency, a lot of this information cannot be tied back for various reasons. And then one of the other important aspect, and probably one of the most important aspect in the industry, is royalty payments. Royalty payments can be simply put the monies you receive for an asset that belongs to you or you have a part to play in. So think of an example as if you're watching an episode of Friends, then anytime you see a specific character appearing in a show, in an episode, he or she would have had a contract in the back end which says, if I'm there in the show, in this episode for this much duration, for example, I would be making X cents or X pounds or X dollars. Now, this is not just applicable to TV shows. It's a very, very widespread concept when it comes to music, when it comes to movies and things like that. So royalty payments, as you can see, is a very, very closely knitted use case, not just a use case, but a very complex cases that are involved in it. And this is where blockchain kind of helps untangle a lot of these issues. Some other aspects are DRM, digital rights management, where what do you want to play, where do you want to play, are you allowed to play this content or not, and things like that. With media rights, it kind of is a two-way play. So who owns these media rights and what can you use it for and where? For example, there was a lot of issue recently with Taylor Swift wanting to play some of her music at a concert, but her own music was being held off by somebody else. Now, as an artist, that's a big pain point because it's your asset and it's your creation. If you cannot use it, something's not right. So this has happened because of a lot of gaps, a lot of loopholes in how the contracts are made and things like that. So again, blockchain kind of ties those things together. We'll kind of look at it. Disconnection between artists and fans, and then lack of control by artists. Now, one of the things that I already mentioned is that case where, as an artist, you really don't have full access rights on your own creation. Now, that is something you really want to solve for the industry, and that's a big win, not just for the artists, but also for the music labels or the content owners or the distributors across the value chain. And the disconnect between fans and artists is well known, but I think platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and things like that are now changing the facet of it. I think there can be more that can be done. Like I said, we will look at 5 key forces within the industry that are pushing the envelope across the board. Now, this is not necessarily just for media entertainment. You can take these off and then apply to most of the domains, and they'll still be valid. First thing is the enablement of smart contracts. Now, it's simply a rule book, right? So it executes based on certain conditions that are set. Now, this is if having that ability to execute something on the fly based on a specific rule book, which is controlled and written and secured, is one very good a very good offering of blockchain. The second one on the right is the establishment of a reputation system. Now, because of the way blockchain kind of is set up, you are then able to establish that transparency. You're able to establish that peace of mind with you when you're dealing with different kinds of transactions, and you are able to associate a kind of reputation against your transactions of who you're dealing with, and if you're dealing with him or her or that particular entity, how are you able to then correlate to it at the end of the line. In establishing transparency in transactions, like I said, because it is all linked on a chain, you can pretty much go back, you can pretty much monitor what has happened from the point of inception to today or this time. And that is very critical when you're trying to establish and prove a point, saying whatever happened, if a transaction happened in time, this is the proof of it, and this cannot be changed anymore owing to the way blockchain works. And then promoting dynamic and efficient pricing. Now, if you are able to, this kind of ties into a use case that we'll briefly touch upon, but what this effectively means is, because of the control blockchain gives you on any of the media asset, you are then able to monetize it in a far better way than what it is today. So that ties into the next driving force, which is micrometering and micro monetization. So imagine I'm playing a song which is 3 minutes long. Now I am not going to, I want to use that particular bit in that song. Now, the way everything is set up today is I need to buy the whole thing, or some places they offer you 15 seconds and 30 seconds of it. But what if my requirement is in between 30 seconds and 45 seconds? Now I have to end up buying the whole thing, but I don't want to. So micrometering and micro monetization is exactly that. You pay for the time you have consumed for whatever you consume, and this kind of changes the subscription model. This changes the pricing plan, and effectively that means the end user is then able to kind of come off with some will be paying much lesser than what he or she would be doing otherwise. Moving on. So these are some of the use cases. Now we're looking at the media, at the high level media entertainment world. What kind of use cases exist? And one of the first ones is media tokenization. By that, I mean, you can very much tokenize your creative content, and then put it, be it a media entity, or be it a file, be it a video file, be it an audio file, or anything. You can tokenize it, you can embed it with smart contracts and revenues and royalties. Now, this way, you are able to associate the consumption of it, you're able to perform royalty management on it, and you're able to realize the revenues much easily. The second one is initial content offering. This is very similar to an IPO, where you can, if you're a songwriter, if you are a story writer, or anybody to that end, creative content offering, person, then you can put your content out there in the market and expect music labels or big companies or even individuals to come bid for it and buy a piece of it. Now, essentially, what this means is, think of you owning in the whole. If you look up in the sky, people kind of these days offer, "Oh, there's a star in your name." So it's something like that, where you, if on a particular song, or for example, you can own a royalty or you can own part of it. Now, that is a new kind of very unique way of owning some content, but at the same time, as a content creator, you make immediate royalty, you make immediate monies out of it, or you have a revenue and some kind of confirmation or lesser copyright infringement effectively. Royalty payments, like I said, this is very, very easily managed now, that because you can bring in micrometering, you can bring in smart contracts and all the best of blockchain. This way you are able to efficiently and very effectively manage all the royalty payments for any number of participants. So if you look at a movie, there's a movie artist guild, you have the trade unions, you have your artist unions and things like that. So everything I think in a couple of slides you will see the number of entities that are involved in simply creating a piece of music is humongous. So managing that kind of complexity is something that blockchain can very, very easily bring to the table, because of the way you can consume the content, the way you can monetize the content. And in the distribution and publishing world, this is again tying back to that old way in which we broke the ecosystem down into 3 levels. So this is the second part of it, where we spoke about billing and pricing, of how can you break down individually a piece of content and then associate a price tag to it, associate a billing to it based on how much you consume. The second one is content, consumer to consumer, or a P2P shared content monetization. So if you're an artist, you can share your content directly with an end consumer, but you can also do that with the big brands, big guys like the music labels or the movie companies and things like that. So what happens there is you are not only sharing your content with people who can bring you more eyeballs to it, but you can also directly interact with your fans. You can interact with other artists and other fan base or people who are of interest to you. Now, what this opens up is also an opportunity to monetize that content. So if I'm a big fan of yours and I keep sharing it across a million people, now since I've done that, I can enable a smart contract in the back end, which will say, because Uday has enabled me to reach 1 million people, I would like to give him like $100 gift card. Right. So because it is all managed in smart contracts, you are able to bring that transparency and accountability. It is very easy to enable that or pay this particular person X monies, as compared to it is impossible today to do this, honestly. Then is the DRM and paid content. Now, if in some geographies, for example, if you open Netflix, there are some series and titles which are only available there, and they're not in US versus UK versus other parts of the world. So that is because of the digital rights management that are associated with that kind of content. Now, it is not very difficult to kind of manage them efficiently, but what falls through the gap is the loopholes that are available. So we need to tie this down more efficiently in order to get there, and that is what blockchain kind of helps get down the road. In the content consumption arena, you have the audience measurement and then the ticketing platform. Efficiently, what that means is, if I am consuming your content, this kind of goes back into the accountability aspect of it, because now I can tell you exactly how many people have consumed your content and how and where. And you're also taking away the concept of fake bots and other malicious eyeballs that would generate these kind of views and things like that. Now, Unilever, for example, is one of those big companies who kind of have taken a step back, saying, I am not able to realize the amount of investments I'm making, because I cannot account for all these numbers that I see in the background. So they have taken everything in-house. Now, what they can do is use a platform which is enabled by blockchain, and then start measuring their advertisements and their performances across both advertising and marketing board, because of the transparency platform again. Then is the ticketing platform, where in today's world, the fake selling of tickets and things like that is very, very easy. So you buy a ticket and then you can create a fake ticket profile and then just sell it off to someone. But in a blockchain world, because there is only one true source of it, there is almost no possibility for me to fake sell you a ticket. And you can also associate with the artist having more control on the pricing. So if you're an artist and you say, I do not want my tickets to be sold beyond this point, you can have a smart contract somewhere which says, if the ticket is going beyond this, stop the sale. Or if the ticket is coming below this, you can stop the sale. So you are, as an artist, you can also take a chunk of the revenue of the money you make while performing at a concert or things like that. So yeah, overall, I think that's the high level view of use cases that you can look at. But just to give you an insight into what it takes in the current music composition landscape is information to this end. So if you look at the number of people at a very, very high level, you have a songwriter, you have a song composer, you have an author who kind of gets all those, the mainstream stuff done. And in the back end, you, from the other side, you need the digital artists who are able to manage your sound recording. So you're talking about your bands, your performance artists, your sound engineers, your stage producers, or the audio system producers. Then you have your recording label. It can be Warner Music, it can be Sony, who then kind of hold all these pieces together. And you have all these aggregators who kind of put everything in one place. So your Spotify, your YouTube, and the likes. And on the other side of the spectrum, you obviously have, once your song is ready, you want to publish them, and then you want to sell it out. Now, this is the other end of the domain, which we looked at, saying this is content consumption, this is content, this is the content publishing and consumption side of the spectrum. So in a very simple scenario where I'm saying, if you're looking at a use case of how royalty payments are managed, it's really a big mishmash, right? So on the top, you can simply see, as an end user, I can pretty much go to Alexa or Google Next UI and say, okay, Alexa, play me a song from Guns N' Roses on Spotify. Now, to do that very simple activity today, in the background, there's a ton of work that happens. And all of this has to be associated with a payment. It has to be associated with how the whole transaction is being processed. And today, it's a very, very messy way how it's managed. And blockchain kind of is one of the solutions which can take you off the hook in a lot of these blockers and simplify a lot of these activities. Now, very specifically onto the music industry, like I said, we will not super deep dive into it, but kind of highlight what kind of use cases are we looking at. So this is not a surprise when I say there's royalty payments. As an artist today, I think as per the research, there's only like 11 to 12% of the total revenues that are collected across the music industry goes to an artist who actually owns it. Now, that's a really, really small number compared to what you get. For example, I think Spotify pays you roughly 0.0037 something cents per stream. Now, you have to really have a million hits on it to make some money out of it. For small artists, it may not be much. For big artists, you always kind of end up making that money. Greater revenue shares for the talent. Now, this kind of falls at the back of royalty payment, but you are talking about the other players that we saw, like the band members, the composers, the engineers. So these guys, because you are able to take a larger piece of the pie, you can now start distributing that money into other owners, if you may call it, or other participants in that whole creative piece. Now, making music cheaper for listeners. Now, because we spoke about how you are able to cut down on the pricing, you can create new pricing tiers based on the consumption. Effectively, that will kind of have a domino effect and then trickle down to the end user. So if your membership today is $10 for any reason, you might be paying $8. Now, that $2 is still a saving at the end customer front. Then you have your micropayments for collaborators and artists. Again, because depending on if you take a whole track, now that is included of different pieces of music or audio files into it sometimes. Now, if I have not streamed if I have consumed only X seconds, and I can then correlate who were the artists, who were the collaborators part of that X seconds, and then pay them. So today, if you're doing it outside the system, it is not possible to really break it down to that level of finer detail. Then you have Fair Trade Music Database. This is more for small artists or budding artists. where you can throw all your content, all your creative content onto an open public database and then make it available. So the premium beats or the free music websites that you find today, those are some of those examples where you can put it up there, but really you can then account for it saying, okay, this particular user has been consuming my content. Now maybe I can create a subscription package or a better offering by saying, okay, you take these 10 songs, pay me like $1 or something. So you kind of are able to make some money out of it, although you're not like a very big artist, if you may. Then in terms of fighting piracy, like I said, because of the way blockchain behaves, you are cutting down a lot of ways in which these content could be pirated and distributed further. And and you also are able to associate you are able to trace it back for whatever reason. And this kind of also helps in curbing that part of piracy. In making making DRM more flexible now, because you are able to essentially define where a particular piece of content can play, cannot play, and can be played based on specific criteria. You are now able to make the DRM rights more flexible rather than keeping them more rigid in terms of saying it cannot go beyond these borders because blah, blah, blah. Now, if there are conditions which are met, you may be able to release it for whatever reasons into the other markets. Securing digital songs and albums into a catalog. This kind of ties into the fair trade music database, but this is more for fully established artists where you are able to secure your own copyrighted content in your name, where you can claim it to be yours, and then it is yours to keep and take and make royalties or reach out to fans or perform in different concerts and places like that. And cataloging them, if you look at it, a version of a song today, if you look up on YouTube, you might find a few 100,000 versions of it. Now, that cataloging system is something which is missing. I cannot really go find a song and then say, show me all the relevant results. You will not get it so easily. You need to really dig deep. And kind of creating this cataloging system will be easier because your smart contracts in the back end and also the way your consumption has happened, you can easily correlate all these entities and club them together. So yeah, I think on the whole, as you can see, a lot of this writes around some very, very out of the box offerings of blockchain. You don't need to do something super magical about it. You just take the basics of what blockchain does, apply them to these really, really simple use cases. And then there is enough for this, to be honest, this is first come, first serve basis. Any music label that kind of goes there, implements it first, can then claim to fame saying, okay, you are an artist. I know I have implemented a better royalty payment system. Now, if you are with me, you get your assets, creative assets to me, then I'm able to pay you $1 extra than somebody else. Now, that's an easy win for not just the music label owner brand, but also to the artist and anybody under who is involved with that particular piece of content. And so this is no brainer when it comes to some of these use cases, and really why I honestly feel there is a lot of scope within the music industry to get this ball rolling. And once it's there, I think it's only time when you can implement it into a little more heavier ones, such as movies or music videos and things like that. But yeah, I think that was about music industry and a blockchain and media entertainment industry at a very high level. It's a massive industry / domain, to be honest. So there is gaming, which I have not touched upon. There is even within the TV media, there is a lot that you can deal with. In telecom, there's a lot of it. I think there's another session which is going to talk about telecom. In digital, there is a lot of stuff you can do. In mobile, there's a lot of stuff you can do. So it's just unlimited at this time. With that, I think I end the session. Thank you for participating. I'm around for a few Q&As if anyone has more questions. If there are no more questions, thank you so much for joining. Wait, there's some chat.
Yeah, so hi, I just have a quick question. So as I'm looking through this and the music industry is just very complicated, as you mentioned, right, as you talked through, it's very complicated and thinking about connecting to all these streaming devices, and I'm sure as we, a lot more streaming services are going to come in, when you think about a blockchain service, who do you think will, or I guess what group would make sense to sort of manage that? Like, would it be all the music industries, or would there be some type of like maybe RIA or something like that entity that would manage it? So when you're thinking through this, how do you think, how do you see that blockchain service being managed?
So there are, I think it kind of is a two-way thing, right? Whoever comes in first can take the pie and run away. So if Taylor Swift tomorrow decides to say, I'm only going to put all my music that I produce is going to sit on blockchain and I will control everything, then yeah, she can very well go away do it, because there are a lot of providers for that. But there is a big loss for music label owners. That said, there are organizations like ASCAP and the likes who manage these kind of royalties and the artist payments. So companies like ASCAP who manage artist payments, or big label companies like Warner Music Group and things like and the likes of them, should be the key holders for this, because they already own a lot of assets, and bringing a technology like blockchain onto their platform is only going to simplify a lot of their world and bring more artists towards them than letting it in getting individually implemented.
Okay, great. Thank you. That makes sense. And what you call it? You said ASCAP?
ASCAP, ASCAP.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, each country has their own representative, but ASCAP is one of those big names that you will see when it comes to payments, artist payments and things like that. I know someone said they were not able to talk. I don't know. Ilya, I think you can still talk. This is open for Q&A now. So, okay. I think if there are no more questions, I can thank you so much for joining the session today. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope this made sense, and we are able to explore this field a little more than a lot of it that's been neglected so far. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Uday. Good luck.
Bye-bye.